You ever hear traders talk about some kind of secret code hidden in the charts? A set of magic numbers that seems to predict exactly where the market's going to turn? Well, that's the whole mystique of Fibonacci retracement. So is it a real map to making money, or is it just a really popular financial myth? Let's find out.
All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with where these so-called magic numbers even come from. Then we'll get practical and show you how traders actually draw these lines on their charts. We'll also talk about something super important called confluence. After that, we dive into the big debate. Does this stuff actually work? And finally, we'll try to figure out if this is a map of the market or maybe just a map of a trader's mind.
So first things first, where do these numbers even come from? And what might surprise you is that this story doesn't start on Wall Street. Nope. It starts with the basic patterns of nature itself.
It all boils down to this one kind of weird-looking number, 1.618. I know, it seems totally random, right? But this isn't just any number. For literally centuries, it's captivated everyone from mathematicians to artists who saw it as a sort of divine proportion that's just baked into the world around us.
It's known as the golden ratio. And when I say it's everywhere, I mean it's everywhere. We're talking about the proportions of ancient Greek temples, the spiral arms of entire galaxies, even the elegant curve of a nautilus shell. The thinking is that this ratio creates a natural sense of balance and beauty that's just pleasing to the human eye.
So how did this artsy, nature-based number jump from an old math book to a modern stock chart? Well, it started way back in the 13th century with Leonardo Fibonacci. Fast forward to the 20th century, and a few clever market analysts started thinking, hey, what if these natural patterns also apply to the ups and downs of the market? And today, that idea is so common that the tool is a standard feature on just about every trading platform you can find.
Okay, so that's the theory, that's the cool backstory. But how does this abstract idea actually become a practical tool that people use to make decisions? Let's get into how you actually draw the lines.
At its heart, the whole idea is pretty simple. Traders use these ratios to draw a bunch of horizontal lines on a price chart. The thinking goes like this. After a big move, the price isn't just going to go up forever. It needs to breathe. It'll pull back or retrace and hopefully bounce off one of these key levels before maybe continuing in the original direction.
So how do you actually do it? It's a surprisingly easy four-step process. First, you need to find a clear trend. Then you find the highest high and the lowest low of that entire move. If the market's going up, you click the bottom and drag your mouse to the top. If it's going down, you just do the opposite. Click the top and drag to the bottom. Simple as that.
And then, here's the magic. Once you've set those 2 points, your software automatically plots all these key percentage levels for you. You can see them right here. Now, while they're all kind of important, that 61.8% level, well, that's often called the golden retracement. Traders watch that one like a hawk.
But it doesn't just stop with simple horizontal lines. Oh no, traders have gotten way more creative. They've developed these complex-looking maps called arcs and fans. They use the exact same math, but they project these potential support and resistance zones forward through time, giving you areas to watch as the market keeps moving.
Now here is a critical rule in trading. You never ever want to rely on just one single indicator. That is just asking for trouble. And this brings us to a really powerful concept that all good traders know about. It's called confluence.
Confluence is basically when the stars align on your chart. Imagine a key Fibonacci level lines up perfectly with a major trend line, and it's at a price where the market has turned before. When you get multiple, different reasons all pointing to the exact same spot, that's confluence, and that's a high probability setup.
And this is exactly why traders love it so much. Think of confluence as a filter. It cuts through all the market noise, it helps you avoid jumping on a false signal, and it just gives you so much more confidence to pull the trigger on a trade. It's all about stacking the probabilities in your favor.
So this all sounds pretty amazing, right? But it brings us right to the middle of a huge debate that seriously divides the financial world. Does any of this stuff actually work?
Yeah, this is the big question, isn't it? Is there some hidden mathematical order to the markets that actually lines up with these ancient ratios? Or are we just really good at finding patterns in what is basically random chaos?
And believe me, the two camps are miles apart on this. On one side, you have traders who argue that markets are just a reflection of human psychology. And since millions of them are all watching these exact same levels, their combined buying and selling creates the support and resistance. Then, you've got the academics on the other side saying, nope, we ran the numbers, and these levels have zero predictive power. They're no better than any random line you could draw.
And that leads to this really key insight from some researchers back in 2006. What if the tool only works because so many people believe it works? It becomes this massive self-fulfilling prophecy, a weird circular loop where the belief in the tool is what actually creates the effect. Kind of makes your head spin, right?
But the evidence isn't totally one-sided. That same academic study actually looked at 5 years of data for the S&P 500, and they found that major market turning points did in fact line up remarkably close to key Fibonacci levels. So that definitely throws a wrench in the "it's all random" argument.
And yet, the counterargument is still really strong. Other researchers have looked at the data and concluded there's no reliable standard retracement level at all. They argue that these patterns people see are just the normal random ups and downs of a volatile market.
So where does that leave us? I mean, with all this conflicting info, what's the actual takeaway here?
Well, if you ask traders who use it successfully, they're all pretty clear on one thing. Fibonacci is not a magic crystal ball. It's just a tool, and it only works if you use it right. It works best in a clear trend, it's way more powerful when you combine it with other signals for confluence, and you absolutely have to remember that these are just areas of interest. They are not guaranteed points where the market has to turn.
Which brings us to our final big thought. Is Fibonacci retracement uncovering some hidden geometric blueprint that's hardwired into the market? Or is it just a map of our own collective psychology, a reflection of millions of traders all looking at the same lines, believing in the same thing at the exact same time? You know, maybe the real truth, like it often is somewhere in the middle.